Hello, friends. So far, we have discussed many things about DBMS and RDBMS. So, what is the database and what are the functions that can be applied on the database, and what is the relation between database and RDBMS, and what is a table? So, this all we have discussed in the previous, and we have also discussed about different terminology of database like rows and columns, attributes and tuples, cardinality and degree. This is all we have discussed. And right now in this video, I'll tell you about the difference between SQL and MySQL. So before starting the difference, we would like to tell you about the commands and related to MySQL and SQL, and later I'll tell you the difference between SQL and MySQL database. Hope this is clear. So first, we are going to see what should be the characteristics of MySQL. So basically, MySQL is an open source software which is available for the people free of cost and with redistributable rights. Means you can download it and you can distribute it without any fear. So there's no charge uh, going to be imposed on you if you redistribute the software. In RDBMS, the data is stored into a table that you know very well, and table consists of rows and columns. On a table, you can perform various SQL operations. So these operations or these functions we'll discuss in later slides. But here I'm discussing the characteristics of uh, MySQL. So here, execution of SQL rather, not MySQL. So the main is SQL, and that is why I'm emphasizing on SQL. The execution of SQL commands is very fast. If your provided your system is properly configured and supports SQL, then definitely SQL command will work much faster. So this way, your your SQL speed can be measured, or it should be uh, it should be quite optimal if your system is optimal. Since this product is open source, the user does not have to pay for MySQL. So it is freely available, and you can distribute it, or you can give to your friends and anybody whom you want to. Its source code is also available. Since source code is available, then you can make some changes as per the norms and resubmit those changes to the community. And if community agrees, then those changes will be incorporated the software, and you'll be the part of that community as well. As far as security is concerned, it is very secured. Your database is secured, as you have seen previously when I taught you that MySQL database is very secured, because while downloading the database and MySQL and configuring MySQL, you must have noticed that I gave uh, the secured password to the database, and this security makes the entire product or the database secured. We can apply SQL based queries in MySQL. So SQL commands, what are the SQL commands? and what how can we apply those commands to MySQL. This we will discuss, or this we will study for next slide, or slides coming for discussion. So another characteristic of MySQL that it supports various data types. What are those data types? Normally we discuss about integer, we discuss about character, we discuss about varchar, date, and decimal. So which we will discuss later slides or further sections. We can store a huge amount of data with the imagination of beyond the imagination of capacity, data in the database, and more. This is known as the scalability of the database. Means you can store huge amount of data in your database. So here we'll discuss the difference between SQL and MySQL. So SQL is basically the language, which is the acronym of structured query language, right? In order to access MySQL database, users as well as programs have to use SQL commands to manipulate the database. So commands and MySQL commands or SQL commands, SQL commands will be applied to MySQL so that the database or the rows of or the records of the database can be manipulated. SQL provides queries to be applied on the database. Where? Which database? That is MySQL database. SQL is a set of standard commands which is recognized by all the RDBMS. So SQL is very powerful, and all those commands belong to SQL can be applied almost all the RDBMS. Now we are going to discuss SQL commands. So there are three commands. These commands are categorized uh, in three parts, like DDL, DML, and DCL. DDL and DML are written in blue and DCL in red, and that is why it means DCL is different. Why DCL is different and why it is in red? So the reason is DCL is not included in your CBSE curriculum for 12th, but DDL and DML uh, are included, and we'll discuss DDL and DML. So what is data definition language? Data definition language of SQL allows us to perform the tasks related to the structure of the table. Means if you want to create the table, you can use DDL. If you want to modify the table, you can use DDL. If you want to delete the table, use DDL. So these three commands or these three operations come under DDL, and that can be applied while creating, modifying, and deleting the table. The next is data manipulation language. So what does it do on database? So very simple. This allows us to perform the tasks related to the manipulation of the records available in the database or in the table. So what are those commands? These commands are insert, when you want to insert data or store data into a table, you will have to use the command insert. And if you have data in your database and if you want to change the data or modify the data of the database or the table, you will have to apply update function. Similarly, if you want to delete the existing record of the table, you will have to use delete function of DML command or DML category. So basically the strong functions of DML are insert, update, and delete. And select function also comes under DML, but it has uh, lightweight. Lightweight in the sense it uh, obviously it selects the data or it filters the data. So its role is not as strong as of these three: insert, update, and delete. But it comes under DML. And the next is DCL. I should give a little reference of DCL. DCL in the sense data control language. So DCL allows us to perform the task like grant and revoke functions. What is grant and what is revoke? Though these commands are not in a course because DCL is already out of your syllabus, but I should give the reference of these two functions. Grant means you have right to as administrator you can uh, add users to your database. So you can add multiple users to your database so that users can work on the same database. While you add the users to your database, as administrator, you can grant the rights or give the rights. So grant means when you want to give the rights to the users, you should use grant function. And when you want to revoke the rights or remove the rights, you will have to use revoke function so that you can grant the rights to the users and you can revoke the rights from the user. So this is the concept of DCL. So that's all for the day. We'll meet in the next video. Hope you liked it, and if you like it, kindly share it with your friends and subscribe the channel and like the video. So we'll meet in the next video with commands coming under DDL, DML, and DCL. So till then, bye bye.